Guarantee to all without regard.
Bob Marley's War. Our guest right now is Oxford University professor Avi Shlaim. He teaches international relations at Oxford University. He's speaking to us from Oxford right now, leading authority in the world on the Arab-Israeli conflict. We've had a number of debates here on Democracy Now!, Professor Shlaim, over the past weeks about what's happening in Gaza. And those who support the Israeli military continually say that in 2005, 3 years ago, Israel pulled out of Gaza entirely. You have a different picture of what happened under Ariel Sharon in August of 2005. Explain how you see the withdrawal of Israeli military at that time.
President Bush described Ariel Sharon as a man of peace. I've done a great deal of archival research on the Arab-Israeli conflict, and I can honestly tell you that I've never come across a single scintilla of evidence to support the view of Ariel Sharon as a man of peace. He was a man of war, a champion of violent solutions, a man who rejected totally any Palestinian right to self-determination. He was a proponent of Greater Israel, and it is in this context that I see his decision to withdraw unilaterally from Gaza in August of 2005. The withdrawal was officially called the unilateral Israeli disengagement from Gaza. I would like to underline the word unilateral. Ariel Sharon was the unilateralist par excellence. The reason he decided to withdraw from Gaza was not out of any concern for the welfare of the people of Gaza or any sympathy for the Palestinians and their national aspirations, but because of the pressure exerted by Hamas, by the Islamic resistance to the Israeli occupation of Gaza. In the end, Israel couldn't sustain the political, diplomatic, and psychological cost of maintaining its occupation in Gaza. And let me add in parentheses that Gaza was a classic example of exploitation, of colonial exploitation in the post-colonial era. Gaza is a tiny strip of land with about 1.5 million Arabs, most of them, half of them, refugees. It's the most crowded piece of land on God's earth. There were 8,000 Israeli settlers in Gaza, yet the 8,000 settlers controlled 25% of the territory, 40% of the arable land, and the largest share of the desperately scarce water resources. Ariel Sharon decided to withdraw from Gaza unilaterally, not as a contribution, as he claimed, to a two-state solution. The withdrawal from Gaza took place in the context of unilateral Israeli action in what was seen as Israeli national interests. There were no negotiations with the Palestinian Authority on an overall settlement. The withdrawal from Gaza was not a prelude to further withdrawals from the other occupied territories, but a prelude to further expansion, a further consolidation of Israel's control over the West Bank. In the year after the withdrawal from Gaza, 12,000 new settlers went to live on the West Bank. So I see the withdrawal from Gaza in the summer of 2005 as part of a unilateral Israeli attempt to redraw the borders of Greater Israel and to shun any negotiations and compromise with the Palestinian Authority.
Professor Avi Shleim, Israel says the reason it has attacked Gaza is because of the rocket fire, the rockets that Hamas is firing into the southern Israel.
This is Israeli propaganda, and it is a pack of lies. The important thing to remember is that there was a ceasefire brokered by Egypt in July of last year, and that ceasefire succeeded. So if Israel wanted to protect its citizens, and it had every right to protect its citizens, the way to go about it was not by launching this vicious military offensive, but by observing the ceasefire. Now, let me give you some figures which I think are the most crucial figures in understanding this conflict. Before the ceasefire came into effect in July of 2008, the monthly number of rockets fired, Qassam rockets, homemade Qassam rockets fired from the Gaza Strip on Israeli settlements and towns in southern Israel was 179. In the first 4 months of the ceasefire, the number dropped dramatically to 3 rockets a month, almost 0. I would like to repeat these figures for the benefit of your listeners. Pre-ceasefire, 179 rockets were fired on Israel. Post-ceasefire, 3 rockets a month. This is point number 1, and it's crucial. And my figures are beyond dispute because they come from the website of the Israeli Foreign Ministry. But after initiating this war, this particular table, neat table, which showed the success of the ceasefire, was withdrawn and replaced with another table of statistics, which is much more obscure and confusing. The Foreign Ministry withdrew these figures because it didn't suit the news story. The news story said that Hamas broke the ceasefire. This is a lie. Hamas observed the ceasefire as best as it could and enforced it very effectively. The ceasefire was a stunning success for the first 4 months. It was broken not by Hamas, but by the IDF. It was broken by the IDF on the 4th of November, when it launched a raid into Gaza and killed 6 Hamas men. And there is one other point that I would like to make about the ceasefire. Ever since the election of Hamas in January 2000, ever since Hamas captured power in Gaza in the summer of 2007, Israel had imposed a blockade of the Strip. Israel stopped food, fuel and medical supplies from reaching the Gaza Strip. One of the terms of the ceasefire was that Israel would lift the blockade of Gaza, yet Israel failed to lift the blockade, and that is one issue that is also overlooked or ignored by official Israeli spokesmen. So Israel was doubly guilty of sabotaging the ceasefire, A, by launching a military attack, and B, by maintaining its very cruel siege of the people of Gaza.